Lee Roth for 72 hours. That's 3 solid days this Memorial Day weekend.
The first sign, the first sure sign of a nervous breakdown is thinking that your work is terribly important.
That's why it's a long weekend. No work, no nervous breakdown. Just Dave and his penetrating insights.
Like a virgin.
Every hour in the music news, all weekend long.
Wake up, America! We're proposing a toast!
It's the David Lee Roth weekend, right here on MTV!
I had a very short childhood, Joe. You know, I was born at a very early age and raised even faster.
When I was younger, I was an honor student, you know. I remember very vividly many times saying, yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor. Yes, I was here last week, Your Honor. I think of all the education that I've had. My Uncle Manny gave me my first pair of mirror sunglasses. I was 10 then. And getting those through the 3rd grade without taking them off before recess was a tribulation. I remember I discovered Brill cream at the time, you know, and doing headstands for the girls. I guess things never really changed, do they? Geez, they said I was hyperactive, you know. I'd start ticky-tacking on the forks and knives on the table, you know. Singing the favorite songs from the television commercials. And everybody said, this cat has flipped. Nothing's changed. I still do monkey hour, except now I charge. When you start out and you're young and you got all your parents and all your friends, your girlfriends and everybody, you tell them, yeah, I'm going to be in rock and roll. Everybody says, forget it. You know, you be the one in a zillion to make it up there, and it's like you got to put it all up on the table. You know, you put your social life, you know, you're going to put whatever kind of educational background, you know, and you're going to put up all those things that qualify as normal existence. They go right up onto the table, just like at blackjack, man. And you stand a good chance of coming up 22, you know. So you put it all up on the table and everybody says, oh, you're throwing your life away. Oh, we feel sorry for you. Oh, no, you're making us very sad. And if you're the 1 in a million, man, the 1 in a million who go, bah! And you come in at the top 10, then half of them are going to turn right around and go, don't you feel overpaid for what you do, Dave? Don't you think that you're overcompensated for the minute amounts of time that you put into your work? Hey, I work hard for this.
If I had a formula for any of this nonsense, we'd all be managers, man. I don't know. What's the formula? You know, part of going on the road, part of the thrill, the mystique, the behind-the-scenes glitter, glamour, and tinsel that is Hollywood show business is making new friends out on the road.
Smile, you're on candid camera! Perfect tour is one that goes on forever, man. You know, they say, what goes on stage? You know, they say the world is a stage. It's definitely a stage for me. You know, we say we have a good time on the road when we go on stage. I tell you, babe, when I go on stage, we have a good time. On stage, under the stage, backstage, and particularly in the front of the stage.
You know, people say they approach their audiences, they have a little spark, and they wait for the audience to generate the little spark, you know. That's where I come in. I bring a flamethrower. I bring my new Junior Miss flamethrower with the easy long throw attachment.
We have the winner of the Lost Weekend here tonight. It's not a question so much of who came up with the Lost Weekend concept as to how I wound up on a Lost Weekend.
Learjet, spending money, backstage, loud music, limousines.
A Lost Weekend with Van Halen. People ask me all the time, they say, Dave, what happened to the winner, Kurt Jeffries, of the famous Lost Weekend? Kurt, you're number 1, too!
I loved it. I freaking loved it, man.
And I understand that Kurt and his new wife, Bambi, are living in Detroit.
Joke, that's a joke.
I feel that the Lost Weekend is something that I truly did win. You know, the darndest thing about miracles is they're so dang unpredictable. 1, 2, 3, it's Quattro Trail to you till we meet again. Never did get home.
Oh, really? That's great, boy.
I like to feel a part of that. Signs of an approaching nervous breakdown is taking one's work and thinking that it's very important. I think a lot of people think and take my music a lot more seriously than I do. I think that's part of rock and roll. It's just, you just gotta, you go with it. You know, a lot of people look in the mirror, they have trouble dealing with what they really see there. I never look in the mirror. I've always wanted to be an outrage to public decency and a threat to women, you know. I figure it's good work if you can get it, and that's why I joined up in the Rock and Roll Legion. I don't know about my image for the fans, you know, I kind of do what I do, be what myself, and when people have respect for you, when they have admiration, that means that you look just like they do. You just gotta sail forward, you're gonna make your music, you're gonna make your show, you're gonna do the very best you can, and if the eyes of God are smiling upon you, then one day, boom, it's Miller time.
One of the two most difficult things to deal with in life, I think, is probably failure and success, you know. So it's not something you really want to wait around for. It's not something you really want to, you know, shoot at. You know, you're just going to do your best thing, and then, you know, hopefully it's going to get out there. Maybe you're going to win a trophy, MTV.
People say to me, Dave, why did you do a solo album? You know, and I'm sitting here at Barney's Beanery with my famous producer, the famous Fred Frimpleton here, and I remember back when I started to broach the subject about doing a solo album, and Fred said, do a solo record, Dave. Don't be humble. You're not that great. Actually, what happened is we had a long weekend. You know, we were down in Mexico, and I've been carrying around those songs in my suitcase for some period of time. And, you know, the Beach Boys tune came on. I said, that's right, that's it.
We'll come out in the middle of the winter with a song about California girls, and we'll make the video in Broadway 1920.
Dream songs, you know. All my stuff is gonna fly now. I'm a hopeless optimist, man. When I go fishing, I take a Nikon and a frying pan, baby. People say, you know, why'd you pick the songs that you do, Dave? Why did you choose something like Easy Street, you know? Easy Street to me is like the bar. It's the red lights, it's the pretty girls.
Didn't I help you? Didn't I help you on that?
The pretty girls, you know. And it's gotta take your clothes off kind of music.
Coconut Grove is where we go to review the whole subject. You know, Coconut Grove is one of those times when you ponder and summarize.
When we got to Just a Gigolo, it's like Louis Prima threw the ball in 1947 and your worst nightmare came true. Diamond Dave caught it and ran for 1 million record sales. Life goes on without me. Just a Gigolo, and everywhere I go. Started out as a very slow, quiet, sad song, you know. When Marlene and Dietrich sang it and everything, it was just like, you know, really, I'm just a gigolo, and everywhere I go, whoa. I'm just a gigolo, and everywhere I go, even though the body's playing. Every song has its own personality, you know. Every kind of song has, you know, one of them's athletic, one of them's sweaty, one of them's intellectual, you know. Which one are you, baby?
Intellectual.
Let's have a hand for that.
Sit down, Waldo.
I think there's a little bit of Waldo inside of everybody, you know. When you put a character like Waldo on the screen, everybody's going to relate to him, but ain't nobody's going to admit it. Now, how much Waldo do you think is in my attorney, Julius?
Waldo is all me. Can't you dig it?
I do the videos to have something to do during the commercials. It's kind of thing where you're going to have a fantasy, man, and you're going to paint it up with the best characters that you possibly can, and then you're going to try and, you know, do something on the screen with it.
Cut it! Cut it. Thank you, Dave.
Dave, forget about it.
I don't think any single character is created out of one person. You know, it's conglomeration. You know, you say, well, what about the crazy Italian manager? You know, the guy who's always grabbing his crotch, you know, and like that. Isn't that really one person?
Forget about it, Dave.
No, it's a combination of that I know personally. And, you know, they ask about, you know, the girls and so on and all the stereotypes. And no, they are combinants. They are, you know, conglomerations of several different kinds of people that you put into one tube top and spike heels.
Dave,
what are you doing here at your house in your pool?
Oh, man. I'm
What are you
trying
doing?
to do an interview with the people MTV, man.
Right here? I'll stay. Go ahead.
Ladies
Go ahead.
and gentlemen, Mr. Pedro Picasso, yours truly, Dave Picasso, and
Forget about
together
it.
we are the Picasso
Picasso brothers.
We're the ones responsible for the video schmuck that's been wrecking your wrecking TV set for the last year and a half. Actually, I'm mostly the one responsible.
That's where he's wrong. I do almost everything that deals with the taste.
Who's the genius behind the California Girls video?
I was.
And the Gigolo video?
I was.
I was reading in a magazine that there were budgetary problems on both those videos. Who's responsible for that?
He was.
The creative process between Pete Angelis and myself is kind of, you know, we argue. And we go back and forth and back and forth. Generally, though, I am the responsible party. When something goes wrong, I am responsible. I think Pete will testify to that probably later on in this very same interview.
But in a team, usually one person's stronger than the other person. Who is the more creative out of the two of you?
I am. I think it's obvious.
All right, everybody, I gotta have this suit back by 6. Let's try and get it right. I don't know, everybody's got their own definition of art. I think it's more lifestyle. I think it's more your attitude than what you put on a piece of canvas, you know? I think it's more than just what you go ahead and carve out of a piece of clay or some sort of a sound that you make for the purpose of putting on a record, you know? I think it's your whole approach, you know? It's how you feel, you know, and you gotta live with that fury. You gotta have a little bit of that sense of humor, a little bit of that tenderness, and then, you know, whatever you do is gonna be art. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you interact with other people. Everything's gonna be art then.
Is there a master plan for your career, Dave?
Do you have a master plan, sweetheart?
Do you?
Do you get worried about being burnt out with overexposure?
No way.
No problem with overexposure here, Joe.
Stay tuned for more Dave. In the next hour. Ooh, it's even gonna be better.
Lee Roth for 72 hours. That's 3 solid days this Memorial Day weekend.
The first sign, the first sure sign of a nervous breakdown is thinking that your work is terribly important.
That's why it's a long weekend. No work, no nervous breakdown. Just Dave and his penetrating insights.
Like a virgin.
Every hour in the music news, all weekend long.
Wake up, America! We're proposing a toast!
It's the David Lee Roth weekend, right here on MTV.
David Lee Roth is here. Now you're doing solo work. Does this mean that the band will soon be breaking up?
No.
Now that happens, you know.
That does happen. That's the Spinal Tap story. No, I still have very strong tribal instincts, and we'll be going into the studio like the middle of this month and start arguing again, and we'll come back out with an album sometime this year, hopefully.